All right, y'all. Back again with another video. Haircut, bald head. We back in business. All right, so this is gonna be a ramble. I have a lot of things on my mind. Uh, like, okay, so most of you are probably here because I'm a fan of Lonzo Ball. I wouldn't say I'm a stan, but I am indeed a fan of Lonzo Ball. He is my favorite player right now. Um, Let me be honest. I don't really care about him getting his money. Not because I don't want him to get his money. I care about him winning. I think winning cures all. Uh, I want to see him win. I think he deserves to win. I think he suffered enough. I want him to win. Um, which means I want the Pels to win. Uh, but it's that strawberry lemonade from Wendy's. But there's a lot of issues and a lot of things that's going to prevent that from happening. So let's just talk about it bluntly. I'm not looking into those stats right now because they're probably atrocious. I know the other day he was like 12, 5, and 4, something like that. And they probably fell more because it's only been 4 games, so is each game early is heavy on it, and the more games you play, the lesser that goes. But here's the thing: we're gonna talk about Lonzo. Like Lonzo's not getting the assist. Okay, one, he's not the primary ball handler for this team. It's Bi. Bi's numbers shut up. I said in my last video, don't expect high numbers from Lonzo. But let's talk about how Bi and Stan Van Gundy have stifled Zion and Lonzo. Uh, Here's the thing: Lonzo used to get 2 or 3 passes to Zion in a game where you were just like, and Zion looked better offensively because of it. Ever since Bi took over primary ball handling responsibilities, uh, we haven't seen so much of that. Um, Matter of fact, not Bi, Zion's scoring is down this year. He's actually averaging less a game than he was last year. He is a lot more limited in the offense than I would like. Um, and I mean, while he's getting his rebounds, he's getting a double double. So you're trading in points for rebounds and possessions. A lot of that is offensive rebounds, though. So it's like, um, hey, I jump, I miss, let me jump again. So that's a rebound technically. I'm sorry. So he's not Zion of last year. Zion of last year was more dynamic. Plus, the way the Pels are playing, they're playing way too slow for my liking. It's like you got this ain't gonna make sense, but it'll make sense. It's like you got a rocket to go into outer space, but instead you put the engine of a Ford truck in it. It's not gonna get to outer space. It's not even gonna move, you know. So I feel like, and this I think because Bi is like one the way Stan wants to play, he is much rather in he wants to play conservative. He's safe. He's a very safe. He don't like to take risks. In a sense, he's kind of like Greg Popovich. He's in that vein where Greg Pop don't like to take risks. He wants to play a clean game, will execute a game, very safe game, and he just wants to out execute you and beat you by making fewer mistakes. He wants you to beat yourself. Um, but you know, the problem is you got two players. Really, a lot of the entire team for the most part would benefit from this, but you got two players in particular, Lonzo and Zion, who need that transition. They need that rah rah rah. They're not getting out and running enough. They're not. Their pace is like 23rd in the league. They're not running enough. They need to push it. Yes, you can play safe, but you got to get out there. You got to get the rebound and go. They're they're playing a lot of half court, and the thing with transition is, you know, there could be risk in transition, but there's also risk. Well, there's a cost exchange that goes on when you're playing uh, transition versus half court. For instance, in transition, you know, you got the advantage of the open court for the most part. Defenses isn't set. You get to basically make your play everything you do matters a whole lot more. Um, make sure I turn volume down on this stuff. Everything you do matters a whole lot more. In the half court, um, I'll put it like this: in transition, you can be a little bit less execution heavy, and you can just kind of talent your way through. Um, you got to be more execution heavy in the half court. With that being said, one of the things you lose by playing half court is you allow the other team to set their defense. And I hear talks about easy baskets. Really, the easiest basket is in transition because if you get the right transition play, it's just you and nobody else. Easy layup, easy dunk. Um, at worst, a lot of times you get like 2-on-1 situations, which is still good for you. Um, but you're limiting. This is limiting a lot of your players. For instance, you're in transition. Let's say they get back, but JJ trails. JJ's wide open for three. We're not getting that, which is what gets JJ in rhythm. You get Josh Hart in rhythm. Lonzo gets to burst out, and you get Brandon Ingram can sprint, or Zion can, there's Zion weak side. There's Zion weak side. Watch Zion weak side. AD, we remember that. You know, there's a lot of stagnation going on, and you know, we got Lonzo, who's basically now playing as a wing. He's not he like he'll bring the ball up the court, but his main job is to give the ball to Bi or to Zion. He may initiate or run the play. He may call for the play, but the play is like he's just calling for it, and he's not getting the usage rate or the domination of the ball that he would need to compile stats. If he were, or if we're playing a little bit more faster, which is more up to his tempo, um, he would probably be getting better stats, even if they played in the half court. But I digress. But you got Brandon Ingram now as your primary facilitator. Um, he makes the right basketball play, but he's not someone I expect to pass you open like Zoe can. Um, with that being said, it's having a negative effect on Zion overall. Zion had one good game, and it's funny Well, I ain't gonna say one good game. He had one really good game, and that was the second game. Um, but it's like Zion is not like, even though Zion was out of shape last year, Zion was putting up numbers. He's putting up numbers in a different way. Less points, but um, more rebounds. Like Bi has moved into the alpha position on this team. It's kind of like he's the first option, Zion's the second, and then you go from there. I personally think Zion probably should be the first option, then Bi. I think you play inside out, not outside in. But even like, I'm not even sure. I'm just speculating. If I were to go look, I would think Bi probably has more shot attempts on this team than anybody else. Um, In fact, let me say this. I put my name on it. He does, because the first game Zion had like 9. I think the third game they played against the Spurs, he had like 9. He didn't take a bunch of shots, but Bi has taken like, I don't think Bi has taken less than like 16 shots. Really, actually, I take that back. I don't think he's taken less than 17 shots each of the games he's played in, with the exception of yesterday against Phoenix. I really it's he Bi is basically being LeBron. He gets to be judge, jury, and executioner. And I'm not sure that's the best way to get the most out of the team. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying Lonzo has to have the ball to compile stats. I'm not saying that Bi can't, facilitate or run an offense. Um, I'm not saying he shouldn't necessarily be the first or second option. What I'm saying is, I think the team would flow a little bit better if, one, you played inside out. You gave Lonzo the ball, let Lonzo give the ball to Zion or Adams, pick a roll mid range, and I think you would be better served to have Zion operate from different places due to Zoe's presence. I think the best place for Bi style is when Zion isn't in the game and you have like Melly, Josh Hart, and JJ. Um, I think that's where his style of play shines most. Because if you're going to play. See, here's the problem. Lonzo playing the way they got him playing now limits Lonzo. And I think it limits the ceiling and the floor of this team. Playing like Bi doesn't actually translate to long term winning, in my opinion, especially the way this roster is built. Like, to me, if you ask me which style of play would benefit, it's not really a Lonzo versus Bi thing. It's style of play, half court or getting out and run. I think getting out and run benefits the team more overall. But I get it. Stan is a very safe guy, and he's never been one of those guys who wants to, run. Now, he said he's going to make adjustments, and it's going to take time. Look, the same way I said we need to give Lonzo time is the same way I feel about most everybody on the team. Yes, that includes Jackson Hayes, even though he's been disgustingly bad. Um, I I find myself wishing that Lonzo, yeah, I wish he was a little bit more arrogant. That's not him. He's very passive, and he's been that way his whole career, his whole life. He's quiet. He uh, he has his moments where he lets his emotions get out, escape him, but for the most part, he keeps everything in check. He's like the brainchild. He operates and thinks the game, yada yada yada. He's not dumb. Um, but I don't think Lonzo is not an alpha. What I mean by that is he's not going to dictate the terms of the team. He'll sit there, pull you aside. Like, again, like when I said he'll fill in the role that's necessary, that's not what you want from your top dog. Lonzo is a player who, Okay, I put it like this. Let me put it this way. I'm from Louisiana, so maybe you guys can understand. So if you're cooking, right? Lonzo isn't what makes the dish gumbo, but he's the ingredient that makes gumbo pop. Lonzo is, like I said, the stopgap. He fills in and he covers so many different places on the court for you, so that he grounds you out. He rounds you out, and his place on the team is kind of distorted right now. Yes, he can still do some of that, but you're also limiting him because there's a lot of pressure on Bi. Bi has to control the floor of the game. He has to uh, run the offense. He has to make his shots. He has to play defense. He has to rebound. He has to do a lot of that stuff. Um, and I know that the Pels are one of the best rebounding teams in the league right now, and for good reason. Um, but I don't think Bi is better doing all of that in a vacuum constantly. Now, am I saying we need to limit him and what he does? Not necessarily, but we gotta find. Cause see, here's my issue with Stan right now, and it's not like a long term thing. Cause Stan, like I said, Stan hasn't been a coach. He's still trying to get back into the flow of things, right? So I'm not trying to offer negativity or criticism in a negative way towards Stan because I understand. Same thing, I understand Lonzo hasn't had the chance to actually practice the stuff that he's learned in game, really. The only thing he could do, like the mid range he'd been shooting already, he can just pull up and get to his spots better. That's easy. He hasn't had too many opportunities to do the other stuff. But Stan, I think, is trying to run his system instead of Stan needing to say, okay, this is what I got. Let me make this for them. I think he's trying to force the team to adapt to him, and he's not adapting to the team. See, going back to him and Greg Popovich he's the style of no style. His main thing is execution. He runs what he could get make the best out of the team. So his later year teams with Tim Duncan shot a lot of threes in space of the floor. That wasn't how they played in the early 2000s or the 90s, even when they still had David Robinson. Okay, he adapts to what he has. Has Stan done that for this team? No. He has came in and basically let it be known. This is what I want these two. They're going to be the options of the team, which they should. Don't get me wrong, they should. They definitely should be the options. They're the best offensive. They're the best talent. The most talented players. I completely agree with that. What I'm saying is, are we going to keep running Stan's system, or are we going to create the system that works for everybody on the team? I had the same issue with Gentry last year. I don't think you coach to be a system coach or coach a system. I get it. Some people are better at one thing and they want to stick with it. But that don't work for everybody. Sometimes you got to adjust. So wouldn't it be better if Stan looks at his team and creates the system around the team of what they do? Not necessarily what he knows or wants to do, but around what you have. Maybe you want to play 4 out, but do you have a 4 out team? No, because you can only play in a starting lineup. You can't even play 4 out because all you got is beyond Zoe. Everybody else is attack the paint or in the paint. Bledsoe can't shoot. So to me, what sense does it make to run or play 4 out? Now, when you got Bledsoe coming out, you got JJ coming in, it's something. Maybe you could do that. Maybe you bring in Melly too, and now you can play 4 out with B.I., Lonzo, J.J., and Melly and Zion. And then maybe that works better. But when you got Lonzo and everybody else, like you got a team that's young, they should be out running. I get that you want them to play solid on defense and stuff. That's more, I would expect him to want to play that way if he had LeBron. I would expect, like, Stan would be, I think, an excellent coach for LeBron and the Lakers, especially with the weapons they have and things and the pieces they have. But for the Pels and the pieces that they have, does this get the most out of B.I.? Does this get the most out of Zion? Does this get the most out of Lonzo? Does this get the most out of Bledsoe? Does this get the most out of JJ, of Josh Hart, of Null, of Hayes, of Melly? See, I want to win. And I asked the question, or I posed the question earlier in another video. You know, what are we building to? What are we doing? Is this a development year? Or is this a, hey, we need to get into the playoffs year? Most of the team hadn't been to the playoffs. 23 years old, B.I. and Zoe, never been to the playoffs. Josh Hart's 25, never been to the playoffs. You know, so I get it. And it's going to take time to hash this out. And I have faith that Stan is a smart guy and he'll, figure this out. But at the same time, I got to tell you, I think you got to play differently for the pieces that you have, Stan. I think you got to play different to get the best out of Lonzo and Zion because, yes, what you're doing is great for you and your numbers, but it's not great for Zoe and Zion and JJ and everybody else. Like, you guys, like, this again, let me pull Lonzo out of this. This isn't a Lonzo Ball issue, but Lonzo is on the team. This is a Pelicans issue. And so the Pelicans have to fix this. If you want to win, like I get it, what he's instilling in them on defense, I think is accurate. I think it's correct for his system. And I think he can still play his system within it all. But what I'm saying is, look, do you want to have a rocket and blast off into space? Or do you want to sit there and have a little wagon that gets pulled by one guy? If everybody is a booster on that rocket and they're all hitting at the same time, there's no limit to where they can go. But if you're going to force one guy, or really it's just one guy right now, if you're going to force one guy to be your everything, this ain't that kind of team. I'm a Mavs fan. At my core, I'm a Mavs fan. I'm still going to be a Mavs fan. I still care and watch Luka and KP of my Mavs. Rick Carlisle, Mark Cuban. I'm in Arlington, Texas. I was here and I told people the Mavs were going to beat the Heat in that finals and people looked at me crazy. I knew what was coming. Dirk had a specific team built a certain way and he was the lead dog. He was the best player. He's the MVP. That worked for them. And it was a system that got everybody involved and it got the most out of everybody. That's why Jason Terry was so big in those playoffs. Jason Terry was an all-star in those playoffs. Like, believe it or not, like, that's the level he played at. But you got to look at what you got. And for all the shit Dirk did on that championship team, some of that stuff got put to Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, Shawn Marion, and Tyson Chandler, and J.J. Barea. Do I need to keep naming players? Like, there was so much that was delegated and done properly to get the most out of that team. And I tell you what, when Dirk wasn't there, that team went like 2-23. They only won 2 games in like 24, 25 games. But he was just so great of an individual talent that when he was there and everything was working and clicking. But even with that, he didn't drag them by himself. He had help. Kidd, Chandler, Sean Marion, Page, I believe, was on that team, if I'm not mistaken. Um, you know, Jet, JJ Barea, Skip Bayless talks about how JJ Barea jet pumped LeBron. The system got the most out of everybody. Not just Dirk, but everybody on the team. So what I'm getting at, people, and this is just basketball in general, Stan, if you want to win, you got to change your philosophy for everybody on that team. Because if you're sticking only for BI or for BI and Zion only, you're not going to win. You don't have the parts and the pieces for that. You got to do what you got to do to get the most out of everybody. So maybe you got to make some uncomfortable changes. And I'm going to say this, and people going to get mad at me and going to look at me funny, but I really don't give a shit. Maybe Lonzo has to come off the bench. Now, why should Lonzo have to come off the bench? Look, if you thought I was a Stan, you ain't going to think so after this. I'm not saying that Lonzo has to be a bench player or come off the bench. But I'm saying if that's what it takes to win, and ultimately we want to win. We love players, I love players, but ultimately what matters most? Winning. If you got to bench Lonzo to win, and not really bench, but just have him come off the bench, then maybe you got to come off the bench. What about Zion? What about B.I.? What about Steven Adams? Steven Adams can't come off the bench. He's too important. Bledsoe. Maybe you need to put No in the starting lineup or something if you're going to run that system. Maybe you might need to give Melly more minutes and make him play next to Steven Adams. Or maybe he needs to play small ball 5. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of what they should play and what they should run, but what I am going to say is, Stan Van Gundy, there's certain things about what you're instilling that is great for these guys, but there's others where it's not. Think about your players, okay? You talk about having faith in Lonzo and B.I. and Zion. Look, there's no reason Zion should be averaging like 18 points a game after he just had 22. The league has caught up, but they ain't caught up that fast. He's still a dominant force. Zion should be averaging 20 plus a game, at least 22. There's no reason for B.I. to have 28, 29 points a game if they're not going to win. It's different if he's putting up these numbers and they're going to win, and they're going to win consistently, and they're not going to be losing, due to some mediocrity. Now, again, this like I said, and I put Lonzo out there because I want people to understand. I am not talking from a place of I'm primarily going to be a Zoe fan for this. I'm talking about the obsession of winning. Okay? Sometimes you gotta suck it up. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. If the Pels want to win, the Pels gotta get uncomfortable. And they gotta be honest. Maybe B.I. needs to go to Zion and Zoe and say, look, man, I need to do something to get you guys going. What can I do? Maybe you guys need to sit down and have that conversation. And then you go to Stan and say, look, Stan, this is all great and shit, but we want to do this. This is how we want to play. Okay? We want to incorporate what you're doing too, but we want to run. If let's say they say, hey, we want to get out and run. We don't want to have 23rd place. We want to be at least top 10. Stan got to look at himself and be like, okay, look, guys, do you guys really want to get out there and run like that? Okay, then we're going to have to run. But if you're going to run, you can't slack off and have these defensive lapses. You have to play hard the entire game. All 32, 33 minutes that you're playing, you're going to have to play hard. And as a coach, you, Stan, have to be able to listen to your players and to some degree accommodate them, especially ones that's taking the most shots, because the most shots being taken on that team is in order B.I., Zion, Zoe. Those are your guys. You said you was going to run plays, set plays for JJ and Bled. Shit ain't working. You're running plays for BI and Zion. Some games it works, some it don't. Granted, early in the season, maybe in 15 games, we sit back and say, okay, it just took a little time. After all, this would be technically the sixth preseason game. I wanted to make sure I put this in the video. This last game was the sixth preseason game. Preseason is over. Regular season starts now. If this was this would be regular season. This would be the first game of the season. So now what? Now they got to put it together. They ain't have as much time. They ain't get to work out the kinks and a lot of that stuff. I get that. But I'm telling you, long term, this season, you got 10 less games to get it done. You got 68 games left. 68. Every game matters more. We might look back at that Phoenix game and say, damn, that cost us. That might have cost us positioning. Maybe we want to be a 7 or 8 seed and we in a playing game we get 2 cracks at it. Maybe in the 9th to 10th seed you only get 1 shot. That stuff matters. Less games matters. So what I'm saying is, and I know you might be like, well, we should change it up in the season. Well, I put it like this. You'd have had, of the 4 games you've played, you've been down in 3. Not just down, you've been down big. It's do or die. This ain't about Lonzo and his damn contract or his stats. This ain't about B.I. and his fucking stats. This ain't about Zion being the number 1 pick or his stats. This is about winning basketball. Do you want to win at the end of the day? Then do what you need to do. That goes for the players and the coach. Peace.